Hey, welcome to
Hey,
Sweet
good
Tea.
morning.
Good to see you guys. How are you doing today,
Doing
Caleb?
good. How about you?
I'm doing really well. It's got a busy week going on. Valentine's week this
Yes,
week.
we.
Yeah, we had meetings last night, so we were up here doing some meetings with the preschool. We had
Mm-hmm.
meetings all day Sundays. And we had strategic planning committees going on. We had church councils going on.
Yes.
Lots of stuff.
And then Saturday night, y'all watch the kids.
Oh, we did. We did Saturday night. We watched the kids. We had a lot of kids. We had we're looking at having over a dozen kids regularly at
Mm-hmm.
our church services, at the things that are going on. So we're excited about that. To imagine just 2 years ago we were happy with 2 kids, and now getting over a dozen. And I anticipate, because when I talk to those young adults and even those median adults, they're wanting that number to get bigger.
Yes.
So, it wouldn't take much for us to be up to 20 kids down there.
Mm-mm.
And we're talking 20 kids like in the low end of elementary school. So we're not even, talking about, as we start growing and kids getting older, God's been blessing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we've been real excited. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of those meetings are just because new things are happening and getting stuff planned and ready to go. We've been talking. Our fence might be in earlier than expected, so it
Yeah.
might be in before the Easter egg hunt. So we'll see how that goes. So God's really doing some big things. So
Yeah.
how are things going with the kids down there? We see them on Sunday morning, like when you do the kids time. Chris does the kids time, but your kids going well down there?
Oh, they're doing great. They're having a blast. They're doing the Exploring the Bibles on Sunday morning program, so they're enjoying that and learning all about different things in the Bible, and so they're having a blast with that. And then on Teen Kids, we're having, like you said, Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights, we're having at least 12, 13 kids,
Nice.
and so, but they're learning through that, and basically the Teen Kids is going through the gospel, and so by chronologically. So we've talked about the birth of Jesus. We talked about his early childhood. We talked about his baptism and John the Baptist, and we talked about him calling the first disciples. And the last time we talked about the beginning of his ministry.
All right. All right. Well, that's good news, and I love seeing what God's doing in the church. We're talking all this year about filling that gap, finding the places God's calling you to be a part of, and I think this last Sunday, one of the ways we see kind of God calling us to do those things, we had several couples at the end of service. We're talking about love, coming down and praying at the altar, and I don't know if you were out there watching or noticing, but we actually had one of your kids from the children's department. He came down and he was praying at the altar, and it's always great to see. That's not something that a kid's just naturally going to do by themselves. They do that because they see other people in the church living by examples, using that altar as a place to come and communicate with God, and those very kids. So, like 2 Sundays ago, you did leadership training for all the Sunday school teachers, and Kim and I sang songs with the kids and did a Bible study with them, and we did Jesus teaching the Lord's Prayer, and one of those kids was asking, "Hey, how do you know when God's talking to you? How do you hear Him when you're listening for prayers?" And so we were walking through and talking with the kids, answering those questions, and sure enough, one of those kids is like, "Hey, I want to be at the altar. I want to be praying," and so we see our kids learning those examples that they're seeing you guys setting out there and practicing those ways of, hey, how can I get to know God better? How can I get closer to God? So we're
Yes.
excited about that.
That is great.
Yeah, so it's a neat opportunity. It's a really great thing to see people leading and modeling. We've got more families joining. We've got more people getting involved in our various ways around the church, different committees or just ministries and stuff
Yes.
going on. A lot of things going on, and so we're really excited about that and moving on. Now in February, of course, we're talking about love. Valentine's is coming up. I'm going to throw
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. That means run out there, get some stuff now. All right, steal some flowers out of your neighbor's flower garden or something, get it going. But we got our Facebook question of the day, an opportunity for us to try to interact with some things. And our question is, well, I may have Caleb do it because it's so far away. I have a hard time reading it. But
What are you? Let's see here.
I remember the gist of it. What is your best advice? What is your best advice for a youngster learning about love? See, I put the glasses on, I can read far away. If I take them off, I can see things that are close up. But what's your best advice? And this is kind of pushing, was thinking about how do we relate it to our tough love thing. But, we've used tough love in two different ways. One, it could be discipline. Two, it could be the way that we sacrificially love other people, but that idea, when you get young people and we're excited in our family. There's young love blooming in our family. Tate's proposed to his fiance, and they've made it Facebook official. So I suppose I can talk about it now, and so we're excited about that. But a lot of people are going to be sharing and talking, and one of the things that we do, as a pastor, when I'm doing marriages and like you have the reception, we'll have people write notes, give them advice and stuff like that. And so maybe now, when we're thinking about, Valentine's coming up, what would be some advice that you would give to a youngster that's just trying to learn about love, whatever that means to you? And you'd already told me, I got a story, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Just a couple of years after me and Kate got married, there was a gentleman in our church. Him and his wife had their 75th anniversary, and so they were up in their 90s.
Ooh, yeah.
And I've known him all my life. And he looked at me, and he always called me Little Davis. He goes, "Little Davis." He goes, "You know how you make it 75 years?" I said, "How?" He says, 2 words, "Yes, dear." No. So,
yeah, absolutely. But that goes in what we're talking about, the passage that we talked about, the tough love, the sacrificial love, and the joke about that is, you're going to do what your wife says, but that's part of what that passage is talking about. The fact that you're supposed to love your wife as yourself, which means you're supposed to love her in such a way that if you would think about, this is what I want, that you're going to be like, man, I know I need to do what is best for her. And so, I love that advice. I always tell like young people, like if you're young people, there's a ton of bad advice out
exactly.
there. Maybe that would have been a better question, because we might have been able to share bad advice out there. But we live in a world, like I think one of the worst advice that I ever hear people give, and it's usually young people giving this advice to other young people, it comes about dating and stuff like that. They always say, don't date one of your friends because you're going to ruin a friendship. I don't know if you've ever heard somebody say that.
Yes.
And I always tell people, 2 things. One, dating has one purpose, and that is dating's purpose ultimately is to find a spouse. We date so that we could eventually find that person that we're going to spend our life with. Therefore, if you're only looking at people that you're not friends with to date, that means you're looking for somebody you know nothing about in order to eventually say, hey, is this a person I want to marry? And so I tell people all the time, you should only date people that you're friends with. It's actually the exact opposite. Satan wants you to think you should be unfamiliar with the people that you're dating. Otherwise, you're going to lose that spark. There's going to be something that's missing. And I'm like, people lie when they date. I mean, they lie. I wore more cologne, all right, my entire life before I got married. All right. The amount of cologne I wore before I got married compared to the last 30 years, I guarantee you I wore more of it in the years before I got married than all 30 years combined afterwards. Why? Because we lie. We don't want the person that we're around to know what we actually smell like. But Kim knows what I actually smell like now, so I don't have to cover it up. All right. It is what it is. That's what she married into.
Yeah.
And so find somebody that you're able to be a friend with and to begin to ask those questions. Is this friend somebody that I'm willing to have marital love with? I'm ready to be in love with. But man, to go the other way, to say, hey, I'm just going to cold turkey this as much as possible, that's scary to me.
Exactly, yes. That's when you get older, you realize, the advice that dating somebody at random is, like you said, bad advice, because, you date that person, next thing you know, you find out all this other stuff, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
You know,
and like even with my teenagers today, like I find it lower and lower. Like I used to teach middle school kids, seventh graders, and seventh graders were already getting into serious relationships, and that threshold gets lower and lower. And I would tell kids all the time, like if I had my way, I tell kids all the time, look, when you're in middle school, when you're in high school, the idea of seriously dating somebody is, to me, questionable. I mean, that's where a lot of teenagers get in trouble. I always tell people, go out in groups. One, when you go out in groups, there's not the pressure of what comes with being in that one-to-one intimate situation. The idea of building friendships and stuff, that starts a lot faster when you're in a group situation, because the dynamic is not to build the romantic side of it, the sensual side of it. The idea there is to develop a dynamic that, hey, we want to hang out with each other, we want to be friends. You do that in a group. There's not any of that kind of pressure going on, and you get the opportunity in a group to build a wider spectrum. Hey, I met this person here that that's got a fiery temper, and I met this person here that's maybe more introspective, and you meet lots of people, and you begin to see, hey, you know what, I clash over here, I do better over here, and you learn things. And so I even tell people, hey, that idea of trying to be on that one-to-one dating, and you may say, well, my grandparents met each other, like that was a different time. Some of your grandparents, if you start looking at them, they were already getting married, like, the second they graduated from high school, at 16, 17 years old,
many before.
Yeah. In a lot of those situations, that was a different world that we live in. And today, with the way that our culture just makes it a hookup culture and the lack of commitment, there's that push to rush all the intimacy, but to miss out on the godly commitment that comes with it. And so go out there, find a group of people. Kim was in charge of prom for, 10, 15 years as part of what she did in the school she was a part of. And I promise you, the kids that had more fun at prom, that just enjoyed themselves, were the kids that showed up in a group and they went out and they were hanging out together. It was the kids that were like, this is my intimate, and they were so much that it's just about us. They missed the rest of the world around them.
Yeah. What have we got saying?
Okay, well, I was hoping you would vamp while I was reading it.
Okay. But yeah, that's one thing that, that growing up, you don't realize that there's a lot of things you miss out on when you try to get into that serious relationship. You miss out on friendships, you miss out on different things. And, when you get older, you're like, and that relationship's done gone, you're like, why in the world did I put so much interest into that thing that's passing, and you kind of miss the other things in life.
Well, Margaret was saying she and Bob met in their second grade class at school, and once again, I could tell you meet in the second grade, and she's like, we've now been married for 54 years. You meet in the second grade. You built the friendship first. By the time you get to the point of even wanting to date, you know each other. You know your eccentricities and stuff. But I love hearing those stories like that. I know my in-laws, Ronnie and Elaine, they were dating from a young age, and were sweethearts as kids, and so I love hearing those. I love hearing those stories about what God does in those situations, and I love seeing those marriages that endure, like you say, those ones that last 50, 60, 70 years and stuff. It's amazing and something worth celebrating. But today, you probably get it. I mean, you're younger, been married less than I have, but I remember like when we hit the 15th anniversary, and I'm working in school, you tell people, hey, this is our 15th anniversary, and you get applause nowadays, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm like, it's 15 years. Like, my parents have been married forever, my grandparents forever and ever and stuff. But for, my generation, Gen Xers, and then, even as you get younger and younger, you start, just getting to double digits. That's worthy of applause today, which in some ways is sad. I wish it wasn't like that, but it's commendable for those of you that are out there. Hey, you made it to 10 years. That's breaking the odds in some places.
Yeah.
And to get on to 15, 20. Kim and I are going to be 30 this year. So 30 years of marriage for us. So, but yeah, you get, it shocks me, the lower number that people will begin applauding for. But the reality is there's a lot of people that that have had those relationships broken. And I think a lot of it is because at the beginning there were poor expectations. And so,
Yeah, and that's and talking about the godly side of things, that's one thing that, if we incorporate this day and time, get back to, I think you'd have less divorces to have the godly expectations instead of the worldly expectations.
Yeah, if we lined up, I mean, it was one of the pieces of advice that my dad gave me. And my dad's not a big advice guy, so he's one of those people when he gives you advice, you're like, well, you better listen to it at some point. But he was very explicit to me. He's like, hey, when you marry that woman, all right, once you marry Kimberly, and this is on my wedding day, he's like, you see this house right here, and he's talking about his house. That is not your house anymore. He's like, you are welcome to come visit, but that is not your house. He's like, I don't want you showing up one day and say, I need to come home. I want to be at home. He's like, this is not your home. Your home is now permanently changed. And wherever that woman is, that's where your home is. That is now your home. And it was that permanence, that idea that you learn, that the two become one flesh. For this reason, you'll leave a mother and father. Leave a mother and father. And so there was no going home. Home was now where Kim and I were, and it's been that way, for 30 years. And so too many times young people today still have something else that's out there, some other attachment, some other, even family member that thinks they're doing well, but home, becomes that place where you are.
Yeah. There's one thing I'll give this, and then I'll kind of give a funny story about me and Kate. But that's one thing that I've read, and and I've shared with many young couples, is that I heard one time say, it was a marriage counselor. He said, the problem with this day and time is people leave divorce as an option.
Yeah.
He goes, there's always an option. He says, if you never bring it up, if you never have it as an option, then you learn to work through your problems instead of running from them.
Yeah.
And saying that, because me, I got to have a little comedic side to just about everything. Me and Kate was having this, this conversation. As many people know, my mom and dad are divorced, and I told Kate, I said, look, hey, my mom and dad are divorced. I'm not going that route. I'm not getting divorced no matter what. And she goes, well, good. She goes, because if I get tired of you, you're going to end up 6 feet under.
That's right. Just going to poison you. That's all.
Yeah,
that's great. Wayne was saying that he met Nancy in high school the day after he received detention for skipping school. And that's how we know from the very beginning Nancy likes bad boys.
Yep.
That's what it is. That's what it's got to be, Wayne. It's just you're living on the edge all of the time, and that's what Nancy likes. But yeah, I love hearing those stories. It's just interesting the stories we hear, the way things go. And I know each of us have long stories. Kim and I were good friends. We met in college. We went to the same church together. We became friends in college for a year before we ever started dating. In fact, our college roommates, our freshman roommates, ended up marrying each other, and we ended up getting married too. So it was a whole love circle going on there, ready to go. But I love hearing those stories, and we tell stories that when you do things the way that God's telling you to, you wait on God, you search for the person that the type of person that God's calling you to be a part of. God's going to take care of some of that stuff. God's going to put you in the right place at the right time, because honestly, neither Kim nor I were supposed to go to Oklahoma Baptist Universities. Our first choices were other places. We had other ideas, and God worked it out that we were there. Ended up going to the same church for 2 totally different reasons, but ended up at the same church together. Ended up being in the same circle of friendships that us and a large group of our friends, we were all part of. And it was just God leading one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and then 30 years later we're doing that stuff. And so I just want to encourage you guys in those endeavors, in those ways, to listen to God and be patient with God in many ways, and to go, continue to go on. If you're watching this later, share some of that advice for those young people that are out there. We're doing squad goals. One of the reasons our young adults wanted to do squad goals, like our original squad goals when it was just, the sign is right there behind you. Every once in a while when Caleb's over there, you could see it. You could see it right there.
You can see the tip of it.
Yeah, right by his elbow down there. But when we did that original squad goals, the whole point of that squad goals was we had parents and stuff from the preschool, and we had asked the preschool, hey, what would be something that we could offer to them that would help them, that they would be interested in being a part of. And the staff downstairs at the preschool said, you know what? A lot of them are just looking for advice on family, looking for advice on marriage, these simple little things that they're looking for ways to work on that. And so the squad goals we had 3 goals. We were like, hey, how could we as Christians have goals for a better marriage, goals for raising our children, and spiritual goals for getting us where God wants us to be? And that was really the beginning of our young adult department. We did that class. We didn't actually have a young adult class at all, but this was the way we snuck that class into that room that we had upstairs. We're like, look, we did a Friday, Sunday conference or maybe Saturdays, I don't know, but I think it was Friday, Sunday. So we did 2 meetings on Friday. One was about setting goals in our marriage, and one was setting goals with our kids. And then they had to come back for session number 3, and that was on Sunday morning during Sunday school time, where we were going to talk about setting personal spiritual goals for their life. And we lined that classroom up there, and we kind of cleaned it up. We put people in that room, and instead of kind of waiting for the process, we just said, you know what? As of today, that Sunday school class exists. It is the new Sunday school class, and we want you guys to come. And you know what? God has continued to draw people to that class, and we're seeing tremendous growth in that class. But it came out of that trying to learn, how do I love my spouse better? How do I love my kids better? How do I do all that better? And if you could teach me to do that in a godly manner, that'd be great. Yeah. And that was where it started, and that's where we're continuing to push it. And I think of more families, and I think honestly, this is my encouragement for you. I hear a lot of people today that it's election time stuff, so you're going to hear a lot of negative stuff over the next year, and people get frustrated about politics because whatever it is, the other side, you're going to hear that wherever it comes, and you're going to be frustrated because of this and because of that. I actually have more hope for this new generation coming up, because the reality, it's a blank slate nowadays. When I was growing up, we lived, people are like, we're a Christian country. And people actually thought that if you were just down the road, mainstream, normal, average American, you were actually a Christian. That was the false belief. But especially if you went overseas, you asked people, and nobody was seeking God, because nobody thought they needed God. Why would you need God when everything is so wonderful? When everything is the 1990s, and there's, cool stuff and new technology, and stuff is wonderful, and everybody's got a chicken in every pot sort of thing. And now people look up and say, oh, there is something missing. There's just something missing in this world. And people are beginning to draw that line and see that those of us that are people of faith have something different that's motivating us, have something different that's propelling us forward. And a young person today is not against the church. They didn't grow up in church and then left the church. A young person today was never in the church. Their parents left the church, but they were never in it, which means they don't have bad experience. They don't have good experience. They have no experience. And so you might be the first person they have an opportunity to encounter with that has a deep gospel understanding. And so as blank slates, you have a chance to be the first person to go in there and write those words on their heart to share that gospel message.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing is because when you have blank slates, like as you put it, there's different misconceptions that are not there, because there is no, well, this church did this to me, they didn't like the way I was living, so I left. Or
it was boring. I mean, you hear that a lot of times. Kids today saying, "Oh, I was just bored in church." I'm like, all right, I was never bored in church because I never thought that church was a show. I always thought church was a participation. I was a part of it. If you're participating, it's rarely boring.
Yes.
But if you just think it's a show, it's never going to match up to your favorite movie. But just generic from bad reactions. And honestly, there are some churches that treated people poorly. All right. There are people that abused and other things. All right. There are people that had genuine bad reactions. A lot of it were just apathetic. It didn't do anything for me. And today, people are looking for something. And that's why we need you standing in the gap to be able to offer the love of Jesus to them, and hopefully offer them something that's going to be able to meaningfully impact their life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the key point of church this day and time is, a lot of people have this idea that, well, back then people said the church didn't do anything for them, so now we got to have a show. As one church I see, they had Olaf on the stage for a Christmas show, and along with Santa Claus, and they had fake snow falling from the ceiling, and and things like that. And a lot of people think that's what it has to go to, but in all honesty, a lot of times, especially like the younger generation, like teenagers this day and time, especially. There's so much false news out there. There's they got Facebook, they got this and that, and every time they turn around, it's, that was wrong that you heard. Yeah. So what they're looking for is simple truth. Yeah. And and if we can offer that, in which all we got to do is share the gospel, and we're sharing the simple, the greatest truth ever told, and with doing that, then a lot of times they'll come just for that, just to know that, hey, look, this is a solid ground that I can stand on.
Yeah, and the Spirit works and moves in those ways, and so just a lot of encouragement, and we look forward to what God's got going on here. Hey, I want to encourage you, just so you know a little bit of the schedule things happening. This is a second Wednesday night, so second Wednesday night for most of us is not going to really impact us. Second Wednesday nights is usually when we do choir, but we're taking a break because the women are going to be gone, so the choir for the upcoming week is just going to be a group of us men, and we're not going to be doing songs that we have to practice on. We're doing songs that we can just get up there that we already know that we're going to sing together. And so any of you men come. So the only thing happening this Wednesday is just our 4:30 Bible study. Want to encourage you to be a part of that, and we're working our way through the book of Hosea. So 4:30 to 5:30, and that's it. All right. But it's also Valentine's Day tomorrow. So I know for us, so Kim and I will be doing Valentine's that evening after the Bible study. And so just want to encourage you, if you want to come and be a part of it, come and be a part of it. No meal, none of that stuff. Sunday is coming around. Our women are doing their women's retreat. So I think there's a group of them that may be leaving Friday and going up there. Mm-hmm. They'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And honestly, the wrap-up team and stuff, some of the leadership from that group, they might not even be coming back until Monday. So they're going to be there all weekend. Just pray for them, lift them up, because this is honestly a great opportunity for them to be encouraged. They're going to have, in fact, the wife of the guy that preached for me on New Year's is going to be leading that event, and so she is an author. She writes a lot of Christian materials and stuff, and she is going to be there working with them, and so we're excited about what God's going to be doing with that. And then keep your eye on the calendar for other things coming up. We got a game night coming up later on in the month, and Vacation Bible School training and stuff. So we got a lot of great things happening. And I know right now we want you to focus a lot of that on loving your spouse and praying for our women as they get out there to do the stuff God's calling them to do. So we're excited about that. We're looking forward to
praying for their husbands.
Pray for. I keep forgetting most of those young adults that are going off on that group. They got kids at home. I mean, I'm going to be a bachelor, so I'm looking at ways that I'm going to eat food like, there's some food that I like that Kim's not a fan of. All right, some fish, I like a lot of stinky Greek food, some sushi or stuff. I mean, I may be eating all that kind of stuff while she's gone, so it's a chance for me to get that meal that I don't get when she's around. But I know for the rest of you watching your kids, pray for all those families that they'll be able to care for their kids, their families, and what's going on, and that's a great problem to have. I mean, honestly, it's a problem in air quotes, but we're going to have that problem more and more often. The more and more kids we have, the more and more we need dedicated people that are saying, hey, I'm going to love on these kids so that these young adults can learn and grow so that they can be the leaders for the next generation.
Exactly.
And so we're already excited about that. I've already got committees and committee chair people that are embracing a lot of these new families coming in and finding ways to incorporate them into, not just passively being a part of the church, but actively being involved in the church. I love seeing that. Mentorship is one of the greatest ways we have of discipleship. And so thank you, those of you that are actively doing that. And for the rest of you, want to encourage you, if you are doing something in the church and you want somebody to walk alongside you, let us know up here at the church. We're going to be putting together a list of gaps in the church, like not holes, but just places where a person that's looking to do the work of God might consider jumping in and helping. And so we want you to be a part of helping us put that list together.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Well, we're going to pray, and then we're going to move, get on with the work of God. Actually, we're going to try to move our wall in the sanctuary, so I'm going to get Caleb because he's got those big muscles to help me move the walls to the other side. And we're getting excited about what God is doing here at Louisville Baptist Church, and more want to see you a part of those things as well. All right? All right. Well, let's pray. All right. Let's get going.
Dear God, thank you for this time together, and as me and Pastor Philip. And Lord, I pray that you just be with Louisville Baptist Church. Be with the ladies as they go to the retreat this weekend. Lord, I pray that you give them safe travel, give them a safe time there. Lord, I pray that you just be with all the families here. And God, I pray with us as we prepare for Sunday, God. And God, I pray that you just lead us to do your will. God, we want to thank you for the love that you have given us, the greatest love that's ever been. God, we thank you for loving us so much, to send your son to die on the cross for our sins, to love us even when we didn't love you, God, when we didn't even know who you were. God, we pray that you just use us to spread that message to all. Forgive us what we sinned against you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, God bless you all. You all have a great, great week. We look forward to hearing you. Keep leaving your comments down below, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.